You were so little. I thought you were only a shadow on the stoop of my ugly old apartment at first sight. The streetlights were the only thing that illuminated my way into that haunted-looking building. My friends would wince when they saw it and always took a bit of convincing to follow me up to my place that I made my apartment. But you made your home on those steps. I bent down and petted your pitch black face. The softest fur graced my hand. You instantly purred and flopped to show me your tiny belly. I assumed you were the neighbors. They had cats come and go. I went upstairs, tossed my bags on the table, and hours later, when I went to bed, I saw you sleeping there without my permission or knowledge. You were so small. You snuck in underneath my feet and didn't make a sound the entire evening. After that, I half-heartedly looked for your owners or stray cat mother, and no one knew you. You simply, suddenly existed in my life. And now you were mine. I now worried and burned through electricity to make sure my sun-blasted apartment was cool while I was away at work. I found myself talking to you when I was back. It was nice to talk to someone at the end of the day. I went out, met with friends, dated, came home. The friends and dates changed. You grew up. You seemed to hate everyone but me. You swatted at house guests and climbed under my shirt while I slept. Life went on. Then, one night, I brought someone home. It wasn't new. It was a few months out of a breakup. I met him at a bar. I just learned his name. It was an anonymous hookup. Nothing new. Then it was new. It was bad. Like cracked my rib cage open and pushed a sharp stone inside for the rest of my life bad. The kind of bad that digs into the lungs and heart, that makes it hard to breathe and feel bad. Well, you know, you were there. I'm sorry you had to see that. But I remember that it was over and he was gone. You found me lying on the floor next to my old bed, staring at the dust bunnies underneath and acclimating to the new jagged rock inside me. You climbed on my chest, and the weight of the stone was replaced by the weight of you. And you purred, louder than I ever heard you, which wasn't much. But you purred constantly, and yet so softly that I had to put my finger on your throat to confirm. Your weight and purr kept me from losing it. Kept me still because screaming and shaking, that would have scared you. And it wasn't until you finally got off me that I worked on getting the rope off my arms. I lay on the ground where I belonged and didn't move for a long time. But you came and went, purring all the louder. I crumpled in the quiet, wore long sleeves until the marks left. I tried to talk about it, but the stone moved to my throat and I fell quiet. When I went out with friends, I could feel it tumble inside and the sharp points digging in my chest. I couldn't stay at the ugly old place anymore. We moved to the new place and you hated it. No direct sunlight. Birds were hard to see. I'm sorry. I put a feeder outside in hopes of attracting them. You wanted to leave. I got you a roommate. You did not like the new roommate. But you loved me and I loved you. I broke a bone and you and the new roommate took turns laying next to me and purring, and a truce was enough. One night, I worked late on a heavy deadline. I didn't stop until 5 a.m. In my daze, I realized I had forgotten to take the trash out. I did and stumbled back into sleep for a few hours. I woke up at 8 and went to the kitchen. I heard the birds singing and smelled fresh wind before I saw the door to the outside swung wide open. Your roommate, unimpressed by the real world, was napping on the couch. But you were gone. I went outside to call your name and nothing. I got dressed and checked again before I went to work. I came back and looked some more. I made flyers. I talked to my neighbors. They told me they saw a black cat around the corner. I found a black cat, and it wasn't you. The eyes were wrong. Friendly, but wrong. The stone in my chest grew. I put out my clothes and shoes for the night, hoping you would smell them. I made flyers. I slept outside in unwashed clothes and on a plastic chair outside my door under the porch light, but you didn't return. One night, I saw a huge tomcat who stared at me in the dark, black and white spots and gold eyes. Another night, I heard a screaming match followed by a loud thump. I ran outside and saw my neighbor's kids pointing at a tin roof awning. 2 cats were fighting. One of them was black like yours. He fell from the roof and ran under the neighbor's house. I ran over and crawled belly first under a stranger's house at 11 at night in my pajamas and called your name. I laid there in the mud where I belonged. I waited in the dark for a response, but I heard nothing. Tell me where he is, I asked the tomcat the following night. His gold eyes and slit pupils stared wide at me in the harsh streetlight. He said nothing. I was so angry at this bastard. Did he get you? Did you crawl, broken and small? Did you die, cold and alone? Did you wonder where I was? I felt stupid. Weeks passed. I left bowls of food for you. A gray cat arrived, cautious. I would drive down all the streets after work, jump out to check every shadow, every small dog and cat, every run-over rag in the road, every bit that could be you was you. A while back, I read a story of someone who put down their cat. It was sad, and I felt a strange jealousy. They were with you until the end. They kept their promise. I broke mine to be with you until the end. Afterward, I drove home and saw a black cat on the side of the road. Not wanting to tempt fate, I pulled over, crouched down, and reached out my hand. Golden boy, it's me. The black cat stared at me. Regal and unconcerned, it turned and left. 2 years later, I still look. It's instinctive. It's insane. I found you only a few weeks old. You were 10 years old when you went missing. You'd be 12 now. Still, every pet rescue video was sappy music, every stray, every shadow. For a moment, they're you. You are all black cats. One night, I heard a high-pitched mewling from my living room. I went outside and followed the sound, coming to my car. I looked underneath and saw nothing. I popped the hood and heard it grow frantic and demanding. I dove in and looked at every nook and cranny with a flashlight close to midnight and saw nothing. I realized that, crap, I'm going to have to jack this car up and to get to it. I called AAA. They arrived the next morning, and the AAA tow guy does not want to jack the car, but he does jack the car, and I don't see anything. He said he could tow the car, but I needed to move it to the street. I slowly pulled the car into the street, on neutral, worried I was going to kill and splatter an animal inside my engine. The tow truck hitched and lifted it 4 feet into the air. The tow truck guy, all 250 pounds of solid muscle, declared he was terrified of cats and wasn't going anywhere near my car. I crawled on the street under my car, wondering if this is how I would die. Finally, I saw a glint of tiny gray eyes and black fur in a small hole in the undercarriage before they disappeared into the dark. I stuck my hand into another hole barely big enough, felt a tremble of soft fur, and pulled out a baby kitten. I looked at him, and he looked at me, both of us dumbfounded and covered in dirt, sitting in the middle of the street. The tow guy backed away dramatically at the kitten, no bigger than my fist. He rambled on about how he was scared of cats because one attacked his friend as a kid or something like that. I barely heard him over my hope. For a moment, I thought you came back, new and remade. I crawled out from under the car into the light and realized he was a little gray and white kitten, just filthy. A neighbor I'd never met before suddenly popped out of her apartment. I heard the kitten all night. I was so worried about him. I can take him for a bit. I'm working at home today. And I have 6 cats. I know what to do. She beamed at me. Now, there are 2 types of cat ladies. Ones who hoard and are overwhelmed with trash and big ideas. And others who cherish and overwhelm their cats with tiny sweaters. She was the tiny sweater type. You would have liked her. I had a meeting in 40 minutes, so I happily tossed him over to her while I rushed to work. I reluctantly thought about him all day. As soon as I was home, I picked him up fresh from a bath she gave him. Your old roommate was unimpressed, but willing to tolerate the new guy. The little gray could barely run, but still clawed his way up my clothes one night and laid on my chest, purring louder than the noise inside me. I dreamed of you. I may never know what happened to you. The unknowing is the hardest part. Once when you were sick, I held you at the vet and swore I would do everything I could to make sure I would be there until the end. Was I? In that dark, on the cold mud, under a stranger's house? Did you see me? Did you try to call me? Or are you off to some unknown garden and great adventure? Are your days filled with just the right amount of sunlight and the nights with sweet old ladies who call you different names under different porch lights? We'll meet again one day, and you can tell me then. We'll sit on a warm, smooth stone, and I'll tell you all my favorite things about you, and we'll never fear open doors again.
Let's give it up for Jada. All black cats are written anonymously. Give yourselves a hug. On the count of 3, say your cat's full name, the full family name, not the nickname. 1, 2, 3. Beatrix, Kitty, BB, Hot BB, I love you, pretty kitty. You feel better now, don't you? That's good that you feel better because it's come to the end of the night. We don't have any more stories until next month. Be sure you get those stories on July 2nd so that we can read them on July 16th. As you notice, we want all the stories. We want all the dirt. I'm Laura the Crimson Vagabond. Quick plug. I also am an event producer. The Crimson Vagabond Roadshow coming up September 6th and 7th at The Match, a live music and dance festival, workshops, shopping, performances opportunity. Come see us shake our shimmy. You're not going to want to miss it. 12 years I've had this show, but being part of Grown Up Storytime tonight, I feel like a rookie. They've been running for 17 years. 17 years, they brought us an amazing event every month, and we couldn't do it without all of you who come here to listen, who write your stories, who read these stories, who host, and of course, most importantly, the ones who organize. Thank you, Grown Up Storytime. We hope that you enjoyed your evening. Now back to Blair and Amanda.